Can you predict cybercrime? Can you see it before it gets to you and your organization? Luigi Lenguito has the answer to that. He's the co-founder and CEO of BforeAI, a French-born, globally distributed cybersecurity company that is pioneering predictive threat intelligence. Yes, you heard that right. Predictive, preemptive cybersecurity. Welcome to Scaling Cyber. I'm your host, Ignacio Sbampato, and today we're going to be exploring something that you probably didn't know about with Luigi. We're going to learn more about how BforeAI works, how it can predict and prevent cybercrime, and how Luigi is leading the growth of a company that was born in Europe, yet doesn't have physical offices. BforeAI is currently averting cyber attacks for more than 40 million people worldwide and accelerating rapidly. Let's go straight to talk to Luigi. Thank you very much for being here. Welcome to Scaling Cyber, Luigi. How are you doing?
Ignacio, I'm doing okay. A little bit tired just of 2 weeks of traveling around the US. On back home for the weekend, and then Monday in Dubai. So on the roll.
You know, that was actually the first question I was going to have for you. Like, where in the world you are today?
Right now, I am in the Paris Charles de Gaulle lounge, waiting for my connection to Montpellier, coming from Oklahoma City. So
it's impossible to predict, in which part of the world you are going to be, right?
Much more easy to predict cyber threats. That's absolutely sure.
And that is exactly the topic, right? Like, that's what BforeAI, the company that you are the CEO is about. It's about prediction. Now, how it is that you came to realize that we needed to move from this reactive world in cybersecurity to this more preventive and predictive world?
Well, I think it all started, I retired from my previous company, Dell Computer, where I had a very long and exciting journey, 18 years. Went back to my other passion, the speed. So a couple of years enjoying tracks around Europe, Catalonia and Spa-Francorchamps, etc. And as I was doing that, I really got the itch to create my own company. Cybersecurity was definitely the market I saw for the future, the most interesting and purposeful, because obviously you protect organizations. And at the time, this was the early days of success of CrowdStrike and SentinelOne. Everybody was talking about the future of detection and response. The mantra was assuming breach. And I was thinking this industry, we generally do guardrail to guardrail. We're coming out of the prevention time with antiviruses and IDS, IPS. Now we're going to go in all frenzy of detection and response. That means that in 4 or 5 years, we will be all reactive. Because, if you think about it, if you think detection, it means the attack has already started. So you are already a victim. And so accepting to be a victim is definitely not something I'm open to be. And so I thought, nobody will want to be a victim, and they will be seeking for solution before the attack happens. And so we created Before Attack Intelligence, shortened as BforeAI, not to be confounded with the other AI that came later. So
but that was actually a name that caught up very well with the times, right?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's been a good serendipity, let's say. And albeit it is in competition with another great name that is Pre-Crime, the one for the products, right? BforeAI Pre-Crime is definitely good logo.
Yeah, for me, I remember those days when we switched with talking about how to prevent to how to just detect. I was, when you mentioned CrowdStrike, I really remember because I was at ESET at that time, and I was but come on, we cannot do this. But the whole world started to go this way. And when I see someone like you guys, working on this, but not only that, you're not only predicting threats and predicting cybercrime, but you're also guaranteeing results. How it is that, because this is quite unique, I will say today in the market.
The original idea was one, of course, our promise is quite unbelievable. The predicting the future, verting the traffic of the internet, shutting down those infrastructure before the attack starts. It definitely come from science fiction, right? So that the influences from that movie Minority Report, that's what we call it, pre-crime. And of course, we had, the first intent there with the pre-crime guarantee, where we guarantee that if we make a mistake and the customer get hit, we will refund 10 times the value of our contract. it was really to create an element of trust. We put our money where our mouth is, similar to the Toyota 5-year guarantee. The idea being saying, yeah, it's unbelievable, but it's guaranteed. It actually has evolved interestingly in a different direction as well. That is, as nowadays more and more AI get introduced into products, AI comes with a degree of uncertainty, right? It's for LLMs and generative AI, that's hallucination. For us, with prescriptive AI, is false positive and false negatives. And so it's important to ensure the customer that we are putting the right controls in place to provide a regular, kind of predictable response. And so that guarantee is really also setting up guardrails for us. We do it with Munich Re, the largest insurer in the world. Munich Re data analyst team spend time with our engineer regularly to verify that our system are not deviating. It's become a sort of a seal of excellence of the quality of the engine. And so that's also very appreciated, especially for customers in places like healthcare, critical infrastructure, where you cannot afford random stuff.
No, and of course, this is what is also very unique, because when you see that there are like major endpoint security companies that are they are like the driving force of a lot of the market, and they do insurance, but the other type of insurance, the one that goes after the breach. So you are doing everything in the other direction, and you are actually getting a lot of success. I read the other day that you are already averting cybercrime attacks for more than 40 million people. Can it be?
Yes. Actually, we passed last week the 40 million.
That is amazing.
People and business saved in a single day, and we are on a trajectory for 100 million people by the end of the year.
Wow. No, that's I remember I remember celebrating those numbers like long time ago, and it's an amazing number. And for and I can see like the trajectory of BforeAI in the last couple of years is unbelievable, and I assume that it has a lot to do also not only with the technology, but also with your previous experience, right? You are not a typical first time founder. You have couple of decades of experience in large corporations that scaled. And how is it that you use that today?
I've done a ton of mistakes funded by Michael Dell. So
thank you, Michael. Right?
I'm sure he's thanking me, because I can tell you I returned many times over the cost of those mistakes in business creation. So I think it was a good deal for everybody. But no, I think you're right. I think people think that startups are only done by youngster in their 20s coming out of school, maybe dropping out of school. This thing actually says that the most successful companies get created by people in the 45 years old now. When I started, I was 45, so I'm bang on the median there. And I think the difference is that you come with this baggage of experience that helps for what is beyond the product, that is the distribution, and that is the setting up of the teams, because ultimately this is a sports, team sport. And so I think, a young guy will have a lot of time on their hand, and they will have energy, and they will have, the naivety of being young, but they will also have to go through the whole learning path, setting up teams and organizing processes. And so I think there is obviously cases in which it's better to go with the young and fully committed. And now we hear a lot of this 996 mantra of people working nearly 24/7. But then that probably is for sprint type company. For example, in the consumer space, I can see that definitely being required. But when you are building up for B2B and you need to create trust relationship like we do in our industry, I think you want to have reliability. I think there is a very interesting analysis that our friend Russell Elliott does in his book, Cyber for Startups, where he basically say the challenge of cyber startups is that we have to sell to large corporation in the early days, but large corporation need a lot of controls because you are becoming a critical component, right? So you cannot afford to do things too scrappy. And understanding what it is customer service, understanding what it is a service level, understanding what it is in assurance become paramount, right? So I think, you're right. Part of the success of BforeAI definitely come from me having decided not to do things that would have been otherwise disastrous. Let's put it this
Yeah,
way.
and you made quite. There are several decisions that you made that are not the typical for a company that is started in Europe. What I was talking the other day actually about you, and I see it like you are writing the playbook for European companies on how to get to the US and be successful in the US. And it looks to me like there is a completely new way of doing it that you are writing.
Yeah,
why
I
you
would.
decided to do it this way and not like the other way that everybody else is doing?
Yeah, I would say first of all, I wouldn't say that I'm writing it. I'm copy pasting a lot from the Israeli.
Yeah,
I'm a great admirer of what they've done. Their industry is very successful. And so I studied it literally the first couple of years as we were building BforeAI. I was speaking with a ton of friends I have in Israel, but also with others in the industry and trying to understand, okay, what do they do that works? Because they also do things that don't work, right? We always speak
yeah,
about the successful Israeli startup, but they are no different. 8 out of 10 of theirs actually have no
yeah,
success outside of Israel. So I think two things, right? So first of all, let's be transparent. Cybersecurity market, 70% of it is in the US. So if you want to be a global leader, there's no other way than being a leader in the US.
yeah,
Otherwise, you can be a leader of the, when I was racing, we would say that the second was the first of the last. So, so it depends, what you want to be. You can always be
yeah,
the first of the last, but so that was the first appreciation. The second is I'm atypical because I've always worked in international setting for global markets. As a Dell, I've always had global roles, never country roles, and
hmm,
so for me it was more natural to work,
of course.
aligned to the U.S. market because as for Dell as well was the largest market. I knew better what it would
Yeah,
be needed there, and so it's kind of a fortunate occasion. And then the third thing is let's look at the statistic. Um, US company, born in the US, becoming US leader, and then expanding international, becoming global leader. Plenty of examples. Right? Israeli company going straight to the US, becoming US leader, then global leader. Plenty of examples. European company growing in Europe, becoming leader in Europe, then expanding international, becoming global leader. I don't know
yeah,
one. Right.
no, no,
And so with all the
no,
things that we have to crack when you build a startup, the last one I wanted was, being setting a new journey of the market adoption. And I think, part of the challenge, let's be also conscious of it, is that in Europe we are very innovation averse. Our customers, prospects prefer what they say validated
yeah,
solution, and when validated, what that means is successful in the US. So once
yeah,
again, you can definitely build a nice company in Europe, especially nowadays with the sovereignty washing that's going on, and the requirement for that. And if the founder want to do that, absolutely they should do it. That's the good news.
yeah,
As a founder, you got to decide what is your ambition and what you want to build. Not the disclaimer here is that what we are doing is what I wanted to do, not
yeah,
what everybody
true.
else should do, right? It's
Yeah,
I'm not saying that we are right or the others are wrong. I'm just saying what we are doing, we are executing on, and I'm happy as we're doing it. But we should be conscious that not everybody is ready to spend 30% of their time on a plane to make this happen, right? So
yeah.
it has a cost making
It,
all of
it
this.
has it has a strong cause. Like now that's because even when I see some successful companies in Europe, right? They tend to have success in their home market around maybe here in Germany or in France. But then you see it that the founder or the leadership they don't travel that much. Then when you compare with the American or Israeli, they're all over the place. The founders and the executive team spend so much time traveling around the world, and that's part of the success, right? If you want to enter into the enterprise, they need to trust you, and if they want trust, they need to see you. Otherwise you don't get there.
It's also the other way around. You need to be there to understand what they
Yeah,
need, right? And you don't,
yeah,
and let's say, the first couple of years we had a lot of success in the US being fully remote. So all our early customer, I wasn't traveling as much also because we did it during COVID. So
yeah,
technically couldn't do it. But there is an element of this for, let's say, the first phase where you're really targeting the innovators, the early adopter. That's okay. You don't need to be necessarily with them. You can do it remotely.
Yeah.
But when you're starting to cross the chasm and getting closer to the, the more, if you want, mainstream type of customers, those one you really need to understand better. I was in Oklahoma City just yesterday. It's clear that they want somebody local to speak with them. The fact that I have a sales rep that is located in the area made it all the difference. It was one of the first questions that they asked, right? So, I mean, listen, US is not very different from Europe. You just have to consider they have 50 states, we have 19 or 27, depending how you count it. But what they have that is different is there is a more focus on the commonality across these different states, and people move a lot within them.
Yeah.
I think in Europe we are at the early stages of that, and we are more focused on the differences between the different countries, and we don't necessarily move as much. But the key point is, are you building a global company? Are you building a regional company? If you're building global, then you have to be global, right?
Yeah, it's true. And one of the things that I also noticed, how you are growing and how you are building this global company and the validation is the analyst relations. It's very uncommon for a company that there is 3-4 years in the market actively to be mentioned that much on Gartner reports.
I think even Gartner doesn't explain themselves. How can we possibly get so many mentions? We have 39 reports obtained in less than 36 months. That if you think to it, is like more than a report a month. Plus we have cool vendor, let alone all the other, recognition, technology pioneer, World Economic Forum, where I'm going to be next week in Dubai, Tynet, and so on. So it doesn't come by chance, right? So you need to work to get there, right?
Yeah.
Everybody think that it's because you become Gartner customer that you automatically get these reports. Not at all, right? So it's actually a lot of work of influencing the influencer, if you want, right? So if the way I explain it, Gartner analysts are aggregators of market information. They speak a lot with customers of theirs, a lot with vendors that relate with them. They do vendor briefing. They're not necessarily expert in the topic, but they know more than anyone else what is the general perception that is forming in the market, right? So they're market
and
analysts.
The momentum and what is people talking about, what they are asking.
So what I think we did right early on, because we were early also in our category, we kind of created this preemptive security category. It was actually setting the stage of why this would be in the coming years, the new wave. And it was always about not talking about what's happening now, but what is going to come and why we think that we're building in such a way. And so then what happened is that the analysts, when they converse with the other customer, they try to find validation, or maybe they hear validation because they hear the customer chasing and say, hey, we cannot continue to do just detection and response. And so it kind of start to form like a snowball, right? And then, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy if you work in the right way to create the market condition for this new technology to succeed. To me, there are two ways, in category creation. You either are victim of it, like what has happened with AI and everybody, right? AI exploded thanks to OpenAI and LLMs and whatnot. And then everybody start to wash. And then eventually somebody wash it better than the others and truly use the technology and have success. And obviously the market analysts, they just observe and report. Or you have a conviction and you have a thesis and you go after it and you build technology for it and you start to have customers and you show that this customer are getting better results and then other customer want to learn more about it. And then the market is starting to form and the analysts perceive that. And in fact, the part of Gartner analysts that focus on us the most is what they call the emerging technology analyst team. And this is a team that is focused on identifying those trends, extracting them from the market, not just observing it. Or, could do a whole podcast on analyst relationship topic. But that as well, you see, it's a good example of, I worked with analysts when I was at Dell Computer. And, for more than 10 years, I worked with Gartner. So there is things that I learned, again, on Michael Dell dime, on how to, converse with them, how to meet them, and, how to influence them, that I've recycled. What is sure that in the US market, it is a requirement for large corporation when they procure that you are somehow mentioned by Gartner. It could be market guide, it could be a report, it could be quadrants, of course. So if you are targeting medium to large corporation in the US, Gartner is a no-brainer. In Europe,
Yeah,
you can
you
probably
need to
do
be
without.
there. Yeah. Yeah, and there is another difference, between what you are doing and what many other European companies are doing, because now the general perception in Europe is like, Gartner is just pay to play, that you cannot interact with the analyst, that they don't want to hear to you, and my experience is similar than yours. For me, what was interesting is how, the more that you interact with the analyst, the more that you can really influence or at least share your view, but the customer is the element, right? As long as they can see that there is
So
certain
let me give
validation of
you
the customer,
let me
then
give you a hack that we
yeah.
use, right? So early days, you want to show one of the reference that the Gartner analysts use to identify if a trend is forming is how many inquiries they get from their own customer, right? So these are large corporations, people that call them asking, okay, tell me more about this company, tell me more about this technology. And the Gartner analysts track how many requests they get on specific vendor and so on. So what I did at the beginning, as I was doing all my prospecting call with prospects, was always asking at the end, and we were only targeting large corporation in the US.
Yeah.
At the end of each one of my demo, I would say, by the way, are you a Gartner customer? If you are, ask them what they think about BforeAI.
Perfect.
So,
That's a
and
perfect hack.
I was doing like 10, 15 prospecting call a day, right?
Yeah.
And so if you think that maybe 3 or 4 of them a day were connecting now with Gartner asking about BforeAI, suddenly our account manager actually told us they track internally how many mention of the company were on inquiry calls, and we were checking weekly how many mention of BforeAI we were getting. We had an internal KPI of growing it week on week, and so we generated, if you want,
But that's
demand.
perfect, and it shows the experience that you have on this topic, because I don't think everybody sees it. And that's another. You mentioned KPI, and I remember when we met last year in Paris, that you have a very interesting KPI about customer success, and I would really like that you share that, because I think it's magnificent.
It's a CEO KPI. It's not even customer success KPI. So early days, I noticed that our buyers, the people that buy BforeAI, were shortly after we deployed, were always promoted. Right? So they will move from senior head of threat intelligence to director of it, or to team manager or whatever. And I found it happened once and twice and 3 and 4 times. And I say this is it looks like a trend. So now we have statistical relevance because we have more than 70 paying customers. 100% of the buyers have been promoted in the 6 months after deploying BforeAI. So they say nobody was ever fired for buying IBM.
Yeah.
I hate that say, because it's the first of all, I was working at Dell, but secondarily, it is kind of the definition of status quo, right? It's a really old country of innovation. So what I want to leave as a legacy in the industry is everybody that bought BforeAI was promoted. That to me is a better predictor.
Yeah, and I love it, and I think especially for those companies that are a little more innovative, you have like these cybersecurity companies or cybersecurity leaders that are more risk averse, But for those that are like investing and looking into new things, and then when they see results and they're recognizing their company because they chose an innovative solution they trusted, and they're like the results that you have, that is a perfect KPI to see the internal reward that they get, but also how it's impacting. You are impacting their career with your technology.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's survivorship bias, right? If you buy BforeAI, is of course because the product does what it does and it's good as it is, but as you say, it's also because you are really looking at the future of this industry. You're looking at the new challenges that that are posed by criminals every day, and you are adopting the right mix of technology, processes, and tools that allow you to to stay on top of it. So, but it's also meaning that we are really working well in finding our ICP when we prospect people, because definitely if we go more mainstream earlier than the mainstream is ready for a technology like ours, then it would be, we wouldn't be growing on the first place, right? Because they wouldn't already buying it. So I think that's an area that as a founder of an innovative startup, you always want to be mindful of. You are not trying to sell to everybody. You are trying to be 100% successful in a very specific niche. In our case, for example, the ICP is very lean security teams. These are organizations that may have huge risk. Think about financial organization with $1 trillion transactions, but very small team, like 5-6 people managing it, right? Because but when you have this kind of disconnect, for us, it's an area where we want to go after. That ICP focus, I think, is one of the things that my peers don't always get right. And I would recommend everybody to really spend time to understand who are your customers. Later, you will have to sell to more people. But at the beginning, you need few, and you want to stay very focused to your ICP because you want to be the leader of a very specific niche before becoming the leader of everything else.
Yeah, I agree, and it makes complete sense. And this is something that I wanted to ask you, because I like how you are active, sharing your opinion in different forums. I know, even on LinkedIn, right? And it's good because you need to be out. You need to. I think you are an influencer of like the whole founder community, especially the European people is following you. But now you are even an influencer of cybersecurity in general. And I remember you were mentioning at the beginning this detection and response, like the trend went. And then after that, we started to get all the managed detection and response. And today, if you don't have MDR, you don't exist pretty much as a customer or as a provider. So when we're going to see managed prevention or managed preemption coming back, do you think that's going to be a trend?
I actually don't think you will see it because it is already like that, right? So I say that pre-crime is a service as a software. Why is that?
Yes.
It's because our pricing model and our delivery model is based on the outcome, that is the blocking of the attack. And so we charge you for the takedown only if the takedown has been successful, for example, not when you ask for it, right? But only if we complete it and the attack has been stopped. And I think all the tools that will use AI, whatever kind of AI, right? So we are prescriptive, others use generative, will have to implement a usage-based, outcome-based setup. Because to do prediction, you need to use this type of technology. It has to be also outcome-based in its setup. So I don't think you will have managed prediction, because by definition, prediction are managed, right? So it's more of an evolution, to your point. Detection response, managed detection response, and then you go into prediction and preemption. But you are already managed by definition. I think the way I look at it, that I think it resonates with CISOs, is you were to plot all the cybersecurity issues and tools on a matrix 2x2, and you put on one axis internal and external assets, and on the other axis, internal and external threats. We focus on external threats targeting external assets. That area, the CISOs do not want to operate in because they do not believe to have a particular insight. So think about it. If it's an external threat against an internal asset, the CISO team has specific knowledge because it's their asset. If it is an internal threat on an internal asset, even more so, like insider risk and the likes. But for external threats on external assets, there's nothing specific that they can know more than an external company that only do this for multiple customers.
Yeah.
And so that's why I don't think you would have internal team doing external threats. Nobody. Look at this from another angle. Most company in physical security, they do not have employees for the physical guards that sit outside of the building. They always hire an external company. Why is that? Right? Even in the defense space, when you want to do sabotage and things that are really out there, generally this is done through mercenaries and private military companies. So I think the evolution of the industry is that for this external threat on external assets that tend to be growing at the moment, we will see more of outsourcing or managed services or service as a software, like in our case.
And that I agree, and And it looks in that direction, but it's still very early, you know. And the
Sure.
question for me is, I know how it's going to evolve. The other day I was talking with some CTI analysts, and it looks to me like even the whole CTI space is still quite immature compared to, like, you know, the MDR and the SOC and the SIEM and all the different things that you can have on more like the internal part of security. This external view is still quite immature. The new trends like what you are leading now, but it's still, like, you know, very immature compared to the other ones.
Yeah, I think let's maybe how to say kind of be a little bit more detailed on that one, because I think the CTI market and the cyber threat intelligence as a competency, it actually is very mature, right? It come from militaries.
Yep.
Many are here there are great company doing CTI. But the promises of CTI have not materialized because
Yes.
mostly the CTI has not been able to operationalize it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's become a news report, right? So you get to understand, the motives of these criminals, but then so what? The best operationalization is threat hunting. But threat hunting doesn't stop the attack. It just tells you that it's happening, right? And it's a
Yep.
good start, right? So I think the next step is that operationalization. But after that, even if we were able to operationalize CTI to its full extent, it would still be a fully reactive solution because
Yep.
you're not going to stop the criminal in that process. So the next step is to move to active defense. Active defense is where you do something to discourage or deter the criminal to attack you. Now, that active defense is obviously powered by intelligence because you need to know what you're going to do about it. And so I think the maturity is more one of recognizing that organization cannot be contempt just by defense. They need to move to this active defense. Great example, and I know it's maybe somewhat at times controversial as an example of active defense is Iron Dome system, right? In Tel Aviv, the system that predict the trajectory of the rockets, destroy them in the air to protect the civilians in the city. Now think about it. That system, if there is no rocket, is sleeping, right? It's doing nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Is a defense system that is not, creating any threat. It's only as the signal of the imminent problem or attack comes that it activates and destroy them in the air. So I think we will see more cybersecurity moving into this direction, where we need to move away from the pure let's wait and see what happens because it's too stressful. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Into
You're always waiting that something is going to happen. It's terrible.
And you don't know what it is.
When your kids are going out at night for the first time, right? You're waiting for that call. You never know if it's going to come or not.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's a very stressful business for security teams. I like it to compare it a lot with the emergency rooms. Right? My mother used to work in an emergency room, so when I was a kid, she would bring me a lot with her in this hospital because with between our schools and things like that. And I've always been fascinated by the complexity of running an emergency room. But emergency rooms are built on the definition of the unknown of the future. Especially, I'm from Napoli in the south of Italy, and so one moment you can have a kid that maybe broke his leg playing soccer in the street. The next moment you may have a victim of a mafia killing, right? So the thing, you really don't know what's coming next. But that also generated an immense amount of stress and kind of consume the operators, right? And we're seeing the same. The difference is that I think people that go in the medical space and in the nursing and things like that, they do it with a vocation that is to take care of people and so on. Most of the cybersecurity people get into cybersecurity through the technical route for passion of the technology.
Yes.
Not necessarily with passion for defense. There are many that come from past defense, especially in the US, a lot of defense contractors and so on that turns it to cyber. But I think there is a defense, part of the problem of all this burnout that we hear in our industry, that people didn't come into it with an idea of preserving businesses and preserving people. They came in because they loved IP, they loved DNS, they loved malware analysis, what have you. So I think that's another part that we will have to see how it evolves. Will there be more vocational people? Will there be people that go into cyber like they would go into medicine? Because at the end of the day, they're very similar. It all started with the virus.
That is an interesting approach. I can imagine the hypocritical, the
Yeah,
statement for cybersecurity,
absolutely.
right? And this is something also. I have two more topics. If you have time before we go,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
like,
sure. That's gone.
because this is about vocation, right? You are an advocate of like of many causes, and there are two that are like, you have a strong voice. One of them is
All the minority ones.
yeah, but one of them is distributed teams, right? No,
Sure.
you work fully remote. That is another thing that is very uncommon. I know many of the European companies, they want all the people in the same market. There are legal reasons as well why, like all the labor laws and whatever, but they prefer that. But you have people all over the world, right? And you are a big proponent, maybe not proponent, but you are a big advocate of this. But this was also kind of like a consequence for you because it came out of how you needed to build a company during COVID. So was it an original vocation or how you got to this?
So first of all, there is a principle where it all starts, right? And it's the acknowledgement and the belief for me that talent is equally distributed across the globe.
Good.
Right? So it's not like in one area there is smarter people than in another area. Right? You can find smart people wherever, right? So intelligence is equally distributed in the globe. That's kind of the foundation of it. Then the second thing is my story is I started to be fully remote in year 2000. So it's 25 years that I've not put feet into an office. I wouldn't have created a company to go into an office. That's just
to go back to an office, right?
Right. Then you're right. It also was obviously there was this facilitation, if you want. We started with my co-founders being in Argentina during the third week of COVID, and so we couldn't have done otherwise. So it wasn't really a choice. But at the same time, I think if even the COVID wouldn't have been there, I would have tried to build it in this way. Now, I don't use the word remote because to me, the definition of remote means that you have somehow an headquarter and then other people that are distant from it, hence they are remote. I prefer fully distributed because everybody is equally distant from each other. And the advantage are many, but the key ones, first, you really build a full meritocracy because it's not because some people are closer to the CEO in an office that they get promoted.
Yeah.
Everybody has the same access to everybody else, more level playing field. Second, it's great for the company because you get access to the best talent, no matter where they are. When you build a company based on an office, you're constrained from the people that are in the 30 kilometers around your central headquarters, right? So now your hiring pool tend to be very limited and potentially very expensive for specific roles like data scientists, AI engineers, and likes. Then think about it, a company that is in hyper growth. I just cannot fathom the headache of changing office every 6 months,
Yeah.
So in our case, the office, it's as simple as Slack adding more, money to our bill because, we add more people to Slack and that's it, right? So
Slack
I think
must be happy with you.
yeah, I mean, there are obviously people that, to me, it's very similar to debate around electrical vehicles. For some reason, the people that are against electrical vehicles have never driven one, right? They're just by principle against. And if you see the people that advocate that the only possible way to build a company is having everybody 996 into the same office, these people have never worked in a distributed organization. So how can they possibly
I
know?
agree completely. Yeah.
And the good news is that the world is nice because it's varied, right? So we discriminate, for example, by saying, by hiring only people that are compatible with fully distributed. There is certain people that need that social interaction at work. Maybe they want to find their wife at work or things like that.
Yeah.
They would not have to work with us, right? But I'm not worried about it. There are so many other companies that do full office, right? So I don't see this as being there is only one way. Actually, the old model where full office was wrong because it was one size fits all.
Yeah.
So now, you have a spectrum. And I think the critical thing is that the company has to be very transparent in what is their belief and their culture, and then leave people apply to the job on that company or not. And some will, go for a company like BforeAI that's fully distributed, other will go for other companies full in office, other will go with hybrid and so on. And I think we are in a frictional moment because you have on one side employees that are stuck in companies that are going full office when they would prefer to be fully distributed. On the other side, you have leaders of companies that want the team to have in office, but find themselves with team members that have been distributed because of the last few years of remote work
Yeah.
and so on. I think this continuous kind of friction between the two is only because we are in this transition. In maybe 5-10 years, as people kind of change job and realign themselves to a company that they feel more in tune with, the whole conversation will go away, and there will be successful company in full office, successful company fully distributed, successful employees in hybrid, successful employee fully distributed, and so on.
No, I agree, and I think what is important that is something that you said is a policy that doesn't change from one day to the other, right? You join because it's distributed. Don't make me go to the office now, or the other way around. That's still, yeah, we're still in the middle of all of that. And like the last topic that is connected to this, because I like how you see that talent is distributed in equally all around the world, and you are a big supporter of the Women for Cyber Foundation. I see you very actively. Yeah, I see you very actively bringing up talent, also from all over the world, even doing interviews to them. And what motivated you to because of course it's the right thing to do, right? But I can see that you have a passion, for this. So
I have a
what
passion.
motivated
Well,
you?
there are a few things. So first of all, there is a very, I have to say, selfish thing. I have 2 daughters, and I think they should have the same access to technology jobs as anybody else. So, so that's kind of a very simple motivation. Another one is more technical. Our adversary are very homogeneous. There are very, very few women
Haha,
in
true.
the attack space, and they're it's very old boy kind of industry. Having women in cybersecurity team is a superpower because they think different from the adversary and they can outsmart them in different ways. And having that diverse thinking in a security team where you have a mix of perspectives and mix of experience help you outmaneuver the criminals. So even just technically speaking, from a return on investment of your security team, having a more diverse security team means more success in defending the organization. And then, of course, this the principled approach to this. What you were saying is, why cybersecurity teams should be less than 10% women when they are 50-50 in the world, right? I think the biggest challenge we have in that space is more one of, very little. All these interviews I've done for Women for Cyber, I'm still doing. One thing that is common trend, they are all fighters and survivors. These are all ladies that have had to go through an extreme amount of extra work to succeed in their space because they're women. So the environment hasn't made their life any easy, right? And so again, they are survivorship bias, the ones that survived, the one that had the stamina, the energy. I think many other didn't even get to the point of even thinking about getting into the industry, right? So we need to create the condition for more women, but I don't want to stop at the concept of women, but in general for diversity, people that are not white, old Europeans and so on to get in the industry. Because, if you look at the shortage of talent that we have in this industry, the only way to solve it is to
We
give it
need
more
everybody,
access to
right?
people. Absolutely. And,
Yes.
and, even this thinking that you need to have necessarily a technical background, I think past are the days that you need to memorize all the IP subnet to understand
I agree.
cybersecurity.
I agree.
GRC, resilience, intelligence, awareness.
Yeah.
There are so many different spaces in our industry.
One of the SOC team leaders, or actually, yeah, the best SOC team leader in my previous employer uh, is a woman, and originally joined the company as management assistant.
Okay.
So no technical background, but one of the sharpest minds. She learned very quickly. She started as analyst and became a team leader, and I think now that's what she's doing now, and she's great at the job. And there was absolutely no technical background, so I completely agree with you. Luigi, this was amazing. Thank you very much. Is there anything that I forgot that will be important that we mention before we go?
I think, again, going back to the earlier question about scaling, we do have a challenge in Europe that is certain critical job roles like product management, product marketing that are really, really, really critical to succeed, there aren't many of them, right? So in fact, one of our success was that we hired product marketing and product management in the US and in Israel at the beginning. And of course, I myself have that kind of background.
Yeah.
So I think another challenge that we need to know our cybersecurity company have is the one that the founders will tend to hire locally for these roles, but they're not good enough. So how can we open?
There is very little experienced people available in Europe.
And here is not the experience about being a product marketing person or a product management person. Is in cybersecurity such a specific set of knowledge. It's not easily transferable. So I would say that that's probably something that as an industry we need to think about. How do we import more of this talent from US and Israel for European companies? How we build a community of the ones that are prove themselves. We need critical mass, so it's gonna take some time. But I think it's an area that we should all consider, and is probably one of the things that may hamper scaling for some of our companies.
It's an interesting topic. You just gave me an idea of something that we can start to work on together later. Then,
thank you. Me and you together is worrying. Too many ideas. So
yes, that's true.
Let's say to the audience, if anyone need ideas for companies, just come ask me and Ignacio. We have a long list, like a toilet paper roll long.
If we will only have time, right? Time to let you go. Time to let you go, Luigi.
I don't know
where you are going now. I know that you are busy preventing cybercrime for 40 million people, so I let you go back to scaling and building BforeAI. Thank you very much for joining.
Let's go to 100. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Bye, Ignacio.
Bye. Well, we couldn't have chosen a better company to explore for the start of scaling cyber. Yes, this was our first episode ever, and what a guest Luigi has been. Strong vision and clear opinions. Never shy to express any of them. I would definitely recommend you to follow him on LinkedIn, where he's sharing the journey of BforeAI for everybody to see how they're growing and scaling across the world. What he and his team at BforeAI are doing is changing the way that practitioners think about prevention in cybersecurity. Remember, you can subscribe to Scaling Cyber on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and Substack. Another episode will be dropping next week, and until then, stay secure and keep building.